All right. Well, welcome to this week's Tipple's Wine of the Week wine tasting on Tuesday nights. Elizabeth and Jeff Faudre, the owners of Tipple's Brews and Wines. This week, we're going to be enjoying together as a group the Argentinian signature white grape. So their signature white grape is Torrontes. That is the name of the grape. Due to a distribution error, which I've been dealing with for about 5-6 days, we are going to be drinking, some of us one Torrontes and some another Torrontes. Have no fear. Both of them are Torrontes. Both of them Argentina. Both of them from Salta within Argentina. So they are extremely similar wines, and I think you guys will enjoy them both very much. Honestly, Torrontes is a great summertime white that I think Americans and especially Floridians should be enjoying much more regularly. If you'll pull up these slides for me, please, we'll talk about pairings.
Okay.
Okay, so like I say, we talk about a kind of a rough idea going in about some of the accolades for these guys. So the Colome, rather than Colombe, Colome is James Suckling 93 points, Decanter 91 points, average over multiple vintages, right about 90 points, right? So food pairings for this guy: coconut curries, Thai peanut sauce dishes, poultry, fish, and tofu. Let's go to the next slide, please. Alternatively, the Tilia Torrontes, 89, 90 points. When you look at it over time, averages around 90 points. All right, so we're not night and day on these guys. Same exact pairings because they are grown in very close to one another up in Salta. So let's jump back to us, please.
Okay.
Stop sharing. Both of these wines are 100% Torrontes, and both of them have exactly the same alcohol content, 13.5%. So let's go ahead. If you have not already poured yourself a glass, grab your bottle, crack it open.
Are they both Stelvin enclosures?
They are both Stelvin enclosures.
Okay, so we haven't talked about that in a little while. We might want to cover that a little bit, because it's a misconception that a Stelvin enclosure means it's a poor wine.
True, good point. And you're right, we haven't discussed it in a little bit, and it's good to not let it fade forever. So screw tops, AKA Stelvin enclosure, does not mean cheap wine. It doesn't mean bad wine. It is just another, and actually quite a good enclosure for wine. Any wine that you are not going to age is absolutely, I don't care if it's a $500 bottle of Cab, if you're not going to age it, a Stelvin enclosure is the safest means of closing that bottle without any possibility of infection. There's nothing wrong with the Stelvin enclosure. And they're doing more and more research and finding that wine within Stelvin enclosures, actually, it's a bit of a debate, but it's really starting to lean toward the side that they age just fine.
Wow.
So whether you're talking Stelvin enclosures, let's cover a little bit of alternative enclosures, or synthetic cork. Synthetic cork specifically definitely has been proven to breathe just like cork. So those can definitely age, no problem there. A lot of when you see, you can see synthetic cork in lots of areas, but I think a notable area is high-end Oregonian Willamette Pinot Noir. They're beginning to switch over to synthetic corks because they're tired of losing up to 10% of their vintage after getting through all the work of creating it to bad corks. And so
10% is high.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not dealing with tremendous margins. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They put a lot of work in, and just to have things. And here's the worst part as a winemaker. It gets all the way to you, the consumer. You pop it open, and only then do you discover there might have been an infection in the cork that has ruined the bottle of wine. And maybe the consumer understands that that was an infection, or maybe they think your wine's terrible.
True.
So that's definitely not something you want. So anyway.
So as far as like Stelvin and synthetic corks, are you finding that is more in New World areas? I'm just wondering because, because I would think like, okay, I'm French, I'm Italian. My family's owned this vineyard for 300 years.
Right. Yeah.
We've always done it this way. This is how we're going to do it.
Right. You're definitely seeing it much more in New World areas.
Okay.
So certainly California, Oregon, and Australia is big time on stelvin enclosures and synthetics for that matter. So Australia is really, really moving into it. So, okay. So let's give this guy a shot, get some initial impressions. We'll talk about what we're smelling and tasting. All right, this is a dry wine, so we're not talking about a sweet wine. There's a lack of residual sugar, nice and tart and fresh, which is very much, you want a zingy tartness in this wine. That's what it's all about.
Because of the grape, so it's both of the wines?
Yes,
okay.
Yeah, because of the grape. Yeah,
okay.
You should have something that is dry and acidic.
Okay.
So the dryness, lack of sweetness, acidity, tartness.
Okay.
So.
Like green apple. I don't know if it makes a difference, but I'm drinking the Colome. So I feel like there's something in there that reminds me of like a green apple. That
would be correct. Yes. So very common flavorings with these are green apple, like Linda was tasting.
Yeah, no, I just don't want any more.
A sense of like a white daisy, a white floral component can be in there. And floral components are very common, and they can be richer or drier depending. You can go anywhere from daisies to a light white rose, depending on where it's grown in the winemaker and that kind of a thing. White peach. White peach should be running across the board on these guys. And citrus notes. So whether I'm thinking more with the one I'm drinking, a little bit more of a Meyer lemon because it's got a richness to it with that green apple, peach, Meyer lemon combo.
I get like green apple, melon.
And melon.
Like honeydew.
Yep. Very good. Melon should be run across the board too.
Okay.
We should be tasting melon on both of these guys.
Okay.
So where they may differ is the Tilia drinkers should be a little bit more acidic, a little more zingy, a little more citrus pith kind of a thing, that citrus rind on there. And then you may get a little more herbs and a little more of almost like a ginger herbacity going on with the Colome.
So my first thought was Chardonnay. What is this in relationship to Chardonnay? And you can tell me I'm completely wrong, but that's the first thing I got.
I will go with you in that it has a nice heavier weight. So as a white wine, it has good body and weight to it. And that would be kind of in that Chardonnay range. It's not light and vaporous, like some of the very light Pinot Grigio and that type of thing, which is super light on the palate. This guy has some weight. It has a presence that lets itself be known.
Sure.
And as it warms up, you probably get a little bit, if anyone that's not getting a lot of and it's never going to be a ton. I mean, we're talking about a white wine, but if you're not getting a lot of herbs or spiciness right now, it's always going to be kind of the delicate side of that and at the finish of the sip. A bit more to me, I've got a nice amount of minerality coming through on this guy, kind of that, these are mountainside, kind of a granite slate, a little bit of a, austere minerality.
As this, because we opened ours because we paired it with some mussels, and as it warmed up, it got more oily to me, like more. I get a more odor, but we're drinking the Tilia, so
maybe a bit heavier, like almost a viscous quality to it, like a very weighty thing.
Yeah.
What were you saying? I'm trying. I want to make sure I understand your description.
Well, to me, I don't know. It almost gets I don't know. I almost got a diesel smell, not diesel, but like an oil smell, like as it warmed up.
So a little petrol-y thing.
Yeah.
All right. So I could go with that, especially considering the origin of this grape, right?
Okay.
Because that is part of that whole, what I'm going with that is it is a grape that has an elevated floral, very fragrant component to it. And it also picks up a lot of what it's grown in. And in this case, we're up in the mountains. So when you get the two and you get that kind of we were talking about, that kind of slate minerality going with an elevated bit of florality kind of coming out of there, I could get I could definitely see a bit of a petrol effect. Though for me, on the Colome, I'm getting much more of like a little bit of a green herb on the nose, if I'm going to go on the green side of what I'm smelling. Certainly some nice citrus and you know, a nice green apple kind of thing. And those are the dominant things going on there. But there's an herbacity there. I think a nice greenness. Little maybe.
Yeah, and I get that floral on the nose too that you were talking about before.
Right, like it's like it's not a big, to me it's not a big rose.
No,
you know, it's
no.
it's more of like a daisy. You know, they're not
Yeah.
overwhelming, but there is a nice floral component.
Yeah. Much more like a daisy than rose.
Excellent. All right. Well, let's look at where these wines come from
Okay.
and learn a bit more about them. All right. So the Torrontes grape. This is actually kind of a fun conversation. Torrontes grape. Here we are looking at the delight as it hangs on the
vine.
on the vine. An uncertain origin. Okay. So it is described as an indigenous grape to Argentina,
Okay.
which is true. All right. But for a long time, a lot of the opinion was that it literally is indigenous to Argentina, that they found this grape
Just wild growing.
and then cultivated it to make a white grape in there.
Okay.
However, in more recent studies, in the, you know, since 2000, it's a combination of, one was a historian who was looking at thousands and thousands of pages of the colonization of Argentina and looking at what people brought over as far as vines to begin planting. So both settlers and the Catholic monks and priests. And then they finally, that gave them the thought that, you know, I'm thinking this might be a hybrid based on European grapes. In 2003, they ran DNA studies on it, and they found that it actually is much more likely to be a combination of Moscato, Italian, and Mission grapes, Italian, which both of which would go with the monks coming over.
Right, colonization.
And yeah, so the Mission grape, which happens to be the base grape for the wine we were drinking from the Canary Islands as well.
Okay.
And that was because of Italian monks. So the Catholics brought these varietals over during colonization. So it looks like the true formation was that it's a hybrid between Moscato and Mission grape. That happened in Argentina. So that would still mean that it is Argentinian. It's nowhere else in the world.
Right.
But the basis of it looks more likely that it came from Europe.
So it wasn't just wild grown there. It
Right.
was, but they don't know if it was just happened because they were growing Moscato and Mission and it happened a hybrid, or they were
If they did it on
like,
purpose.
right, purposefully.
It looks like it was probably accidental.
Okay.
But Moscato is, all right, here's a great example. I don't know if you guys remember, but the Italian grape from Veneto, it was called Unico, and it was a dry Moscato that was named after orange blossoms. All right, because it has that floral fragrance.
Right.
That's part of kind of the giveaway on the inclusion of Moscato on this guy. And then the Mission kind of dries it and gives it a little more character and that kind of thing. All right, let's move on. So Torrontes, possible things you're going to be smelling. So here we have a perfumey floral quality. The stones on the far right, like I was talking about, they do a nice job, especially in higher elevation, of picking up that slate and stone and granite quality. Oranges, not so much here, but certainly Moscato grape can do very much an orange blossom thing.
Okay.
Pineapple, pear, you know, you could do green apple from anywhere in that spectrum.
I could taste pear, definitely. I'm not tasting pineapple, but, and then it's just perfumey.
It's perfumey.
Okay.
Yeah. It's got a nice aroma and nose. It doesn't tend to hold back, kind of jumps out of the glass a little bit. And so here we have, whichever way we got it, we have a delightful, tropical, but tart, fresh white wine in Torrontes from Argentina. So.
Yeah, it's nice and fresh for summer. I mean,
Right.
exactly. Okay, hold on. I see that somebody typed in the chat.
Let's see.
So, They can't get in with the right passcode and information.
Makes no sense.
Yeah, it's the same format several of us use to get in.
Okay.
They've tried 20 times. She goes, and they just send us like a direct link. I was like, I don't know. I can ask.
Let me pause the recording just a moment.
Okay.
Excellent. All right. And we're back. So let's jump back to the slides, if you would, please.
Okay.
So let's talk about where this wonderful grape is and move on to the next slide. All right. So here we have Salta, and I'm going to grab the mouse here. Salta is in the northern part of the Mendoza growing region. So we're moving right to the top edge here, pretty much within the latitudes of growth for wine grapes. It's getting warm, but incredibly high altitude is what makes it possible to grow these grapes. Actually, grow really high quality grapes, both these and Malbecs in this area. It's a really fascinating area. So, thank you. So jumping over to our South American wine map, like I said, we were here in Mendoza last time. This time we're jumping up to Salta, way up here, the very northernmost region in that area. And actually, a big part of this also is like Mendoza. This is technically a desert area, a little more moisture than Mendoza, but the snow melt from the Andes is what makes it possible for them to irrigate easily. And you can see it turns into a river, right there.
Sure. I actually couldn't see that until you pointed it out. And then I was like, there is a blue line.
There is. Okay. I know. It's almost like Jeff looks at these. So here we are in Salta. And so it's a little easier to see this way.
Yeah.
So.
No river though.
No, and they took out the river. Still see Uruguay with my beloved tonight. Anyway. So here we are in Salta. We've got llamas.
Yeah.
They're using llamas to get the grapes in. It's so
Andes are
fantastic.
right there. It looks like a postcard
right
back
there.
behind there.
Isn't it amazing?
Mm-hmm.
I love it. So
the llamas are great though.
aren't they? I saw that when I went to the Salt, the
Yeah.
website that covers Salta, wines and covering the region. I thought, thank you for the llamas.
I want to visit there just to see the llamas.
As long as they don't spit at you, they're very lovely.
Oh, do they spit like camels?
They do.
You can come to our house. We got them right across the street.
Oh, do you? Okay, I'll be there tomorrow.
That's
Come
right.
visit the llamas.
Do they spit at you?
I haven't gotten that close.
My next question was going to be, do you think it's personal? But anyway. All right. All right. So here we are in Salta, Argentina, 500 miles north of Mendoza, where we were just a couple weeks ago with the owl and the dust devil. The highest vineyards on Earth. Yeah. 5,500 feet above sea level.
Wow.
Yeah. They are the highest vineyards on Earth.
That's very cool.
The high altitudes mean intense sunlight, but cool temperatures. So during the summer, they're about 82 degrees during the day, 59 degrees at night as an average, very mild. And winters, the low is only an average of about 37 degrees. So they get light frost, but they don't get snow. So they, the soil is sand with pebbles and clay for the minerality. So
It looks sandy.
the erosion is going to give the pebbles coming off the mountains, sandy, and then from thrust up there, and then a little clay for that mineral content, which gives us character, which we've seen again and again. I had everyone repeat it with me last week. Right? It's like, oh, it's fast draining, has clay for minerality, and so.
Wasn't last week when we had the obsidian?
Yes,
In there
the
too?
obsidian was in
Mhm.
there. That was really
Yeah.
cool. So low rainfall, especially during the growing season, ample irrigation because of the runoff. And it's a great place to grow grapes. Let them have a long hang time. They can gain a lot of character without worrying about a sudden rain that would dilute the juice.
So they aren't having to do any irrigation lines or anything themselves. They just rely on that runoff.
The runoff turns into irrigation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because they're
Yeah.
taking it from the river. That's
Exactly,
right.
yeah.
Okay. Like we saw
Like we saw with
Right,
Mendoza.
right.
Yeah, they just dig trenches or whichever way they bring it in. It doesn't add a lot of expense.
Mhm.
And so you get things like, for example, this beautiful wine, which I think is beautiful. Hopefully you guys agree. $14. I mean, are you
Right.
kidding me?
Mhm.
So, let alone the cost of the bottle and getting it to the United States.
Right.
Some of this stuff blows me away. So, all right, let's go to the next one. Here we go. Soil types. So here we have the dominant component is sand. On top of that are the pebbles, but mainly pebbles are just going to help run off, maybe a little minerality, but mostly sand and clay are what are going to play together.
Oh, Linda and Paul have their hand up.
Okay.
Hey, yeah, sorry. I've meant to ask this question many times and I haven't, but define long hang time. You talk about the grapes that they had a short hang time. That I mean, long hang time. Can you define?
All right. So during kickoff, when the punter kicks the football, and I'm sorry.
No,
I'm sorry.
Jeff.
All right. It wasn't that funny. Sorry.
No, it wasn't.
Long hang time on grapes. All right. So you take grapes, they get up there, you get into your growing season, they come up, they get to a ripening area. You can grab them at the earliest point of ripening, in which case you're going to have a lot of acidity, but maybe a little bit less character because the vine has just barely produced this grape. A long hang time, so you have this grape, say, okay, it's come into the zone of ripeness that you can work with it. But if you leave it on there further, the elements between the sun, the intensity of the sun, maybe the wind in certain areas like hillside grown areas up in California and Napa, or the minerality from the soil will work their way into the quality and character of the grape as it hangs longer. And the danger of that, the reason everyone wouldn't say, oh, automatically everyone should just use the longest hang time possible on the grapes, is because you risk having a late season rain that then dilutes all of your good work, because all that extra rain is going to be soaked up by the vines and put right into the grapes and overplump them with just water and not character. And then you lose all the character that you developed. The other thing that could happen is as things begin to cool off, this happens in France, they get hail, and it knocks all the grapes off the vines. So the longer it's on there, the more you are at risk, because technically, if you're a winemaker, you've got to make money, or it's not
Right,
you're not going to make another vintage. So once you get the grapes to when they are usable, every day you leave them on there for additional character is a risk, but it's a risk reward because you're going to make better and better wine.
And how long it takes to ripen, and then how much longer you would leave it on, that's dependent on the grape itself. Like if we were looking at like actual numbers, like how many weeks or months or whatever.
Right. Yeah. It changes by grape. Absolutely. Okay. You have something like, Cabernet Sauvignon wants to be on the vine optimally longer than, certainly longer than Merlot, and longer than Tempranillo, which Tempranillo is one of the shortest that is required to get character on the vine. So there is a component that is specific to each grape. But then you have areas of what is realistic that you can do within your growing area, within your terroir. Does that make sense?
It does. Is there, like Elizabeth was saying, it depends on the grape as far as the time. So like for this grape, is it weeks, days?
How much longer?
It's weeks. Yeah, it's weeks. Yeah, absolutely. So they get in there, and the longer they can leave it on there, and it's by weeks.
So 3 more weeks.
Yeah, if they can give it 3, 4 weeks,
Okay.
that kind of a thing, they're going to gain that much more character on the grapes. Yep. And the thing too is, you could leave it on there, and it's not a matter of just ripening more, because you don't necessarily want that. It's a matter of getting to a certain level of ripeness and then letting it just kind of mature without gaining more sugar. And that's that coolness, and that's the balance.
That's hard.
Yeah, and that's why they're artists. Yeah. Because if you just let it continue to ripen to get more and more sugar, then you're going to get something at some point, you lose too much acidity, and now you just have this sweet berry bomb that is not unpleasant. A lot of Americans drink
Just
those
not a
all the
lot of
time, but
complexity
yeah,
or
there's not a lot of
character.
complexity of character. Right.
Okay, next one.
Okay, here we are. We're going into Colome. All right. So Bodegas Colome, founded in 1831 by the governor of Salta at that time. So the governor of that region founded it 1831. His daughter in 1854, named Ascension, added the first vines imported from France. They were Malbec.
Oh.
So in 1854, it was pre-phylloxera infestation. They brought in Malbec from France. And some of those vines made it through, and they're still producing today.
Oh, wow.
I think that's
They
kinda
didn't
cool.
have to be grafted. They made it through that phylloxera.
They said some of them are still producing today. I don't know if they took clippings and they didn't get that specific,
Okay.
or because, I mean, we are talking about this very desert area. I would think phylloxera would have a very difficult time living here.
Okay.
It's not a rich environment. And so they may be ungrafted, which would be wonderful. I'm sure that those grapes are going into wines that we don't see in the United States.
True.
They're probably for the family.
Probably.
It was family owned for 170 years.
Oh, wow.
And then came along the Hess family. So Hess, of wonderful winemaking fame from California, and anyone who's not familiar with Hess wines, come see me at Tipple's. We carry them. They are fantastic. And we'll drink some more coming up. They have a couple of great series. But the Hess family came in 2001 and purchased the property. And they've really kind of taken the winemaking to the next level. They do know what they're doing, and they make great wine. So now it's taken A to the next level, and B, much more worldwide distribution because of what they have available to invest in the winery. So hand harvested still. Hand harvested, grapes are thinned. They drop a lot of grapes in order to intensify what's going on the vine. We talked about this last week. So if you have a vine that has, say, 40 clusters, and you go in, and what they tend to do is they'll take half of them off so that the 20 remaining clusters will be more intense and have higher quality. So they thin them, and then this high altitude growth is a combination. It allows them to be sustainable. It makes it very easy to use practices that require very little, usually no pesticides, because there's just not a lot of bugs up here. It's high altitude, it's dry.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's temperate and gorgeous. I kind of really want to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, they use indigenous yeasts. So they basically crush and go. So you're really getting, between the terroir and the yeast, you're getting a taste of what this region really has to offer, which I like. It's got a sense of place. I love that phrase, a sense of place.
Do you want me to advance?
Yes, I can't remember what's coming up next. Oh, yes. Okay. So here's the gorgeousness of Colome, where if we were to go visit, which I fully intend Julie to set up the trip, we'll start out down in Mendoza and then come up to Salta. Yeah, what a beautiful, beautiful place.
Advance.
Yes.
Do we have the other vineyard as well?
No.
Okay.
All right. So let's jump back real quick. We'll talk a little bit about what we're tasting.
Okay. It's not allowing me to. There we go.
We'll talk a little bit more before we go into, ratings and what we would call it and that kind of a thing. But it's about that time. So, all right. So we've talked about where it's come from. You guys have had a little more time to sip and enjoy. Any thoughts, any questions additional?
So my first flavor, and I know this falls in the citrus line, but it was never mentioned, is grapefruit a possibility, or am I crazy? Like not pink grapefruit, but like the yellow grapefruit.
Me too. Grapefruit all the way.
Certainly citrusy. I think grapefruit is a little more aggressive than what I'm experiencing, but certainly citrus, no doubt on the citrus side.
Yeah, Brian said not grapefruit too. For him, he said the lemon, and then you said lemon. He was like so proud of himself.
Right.
He's like, they didn't say grapefruit, they said lemon.
Right. Yeah, that's like, to me, it's more that kind of Meyer lemon, because that Meyer lemon is kind of a luscious, gentle lemon. And I just don't find it to be powerful enough, you know, kind of aggressive enough to be called a grapefruit. But that's me. I mean, but certainly citrus, no doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I wouldn't call it like, it's not rich like a tangerine or a mandarin.
Not that sweet.
You know, no, it's not that sweet. It's it's more toward, it's closer to grapefruit than the others that I just talked about. You know. So.
Yeah, that's why somebody said pear, and to me that was too sweet. Like I was like, no, I still fall for like the grapefruit, but then the green apple, I could get that because it has like that sour, little bit of a sour tint to it.
Mm-hmm. No, I would go with definitely like a Meyer lemon pear thing. I get it, but that's a spectrum. I mean, whether you attribute more of the acidity to the pear or the apple, you're going to go more green apple versus pear. You know, if you give it more to the citric side, then you'd be more like, oh, pear and Meyer lemon versus, you know, apple and something richer like a tangerine. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, what is the difference between a Meyer lemon and a lemon?
Meyer lemons are richer and a little more gentle.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what you're telling me is I should just stick to the reds, like stick to the things I know.
No, you're definitely tasting in the exact spectrum that we're talking about. It's all about what's going to connect with your memory, your sense memory. And so you're totally right in the wheelhouse. You're right there. You know, it's there's no wrong. It's just you're identifying citrus. So I'm like, yeah, boom, you're right there. You're spot on.
And it's good to go outside the comfort zone.
Yeah, I think we should do some more whites so we can get her corrected with her flavorings, you know.
I think we should take a vote on that. How everybody feels.
I don't know if my bottom line can handle doing all whites.
We have a question. So I was telling Paul, I said, it reminds me of like, don't laugh, of a martini I had downtown once, but it had lychee in it. And
Yes.
I'm not very familiar with lychee and I can't describe the flavor, but I was like, but this is what it like, there's something in this now that reminds me of that martini. And it was a lychee martini downtown. It was the same. Is it like Bello Pizza, but it has, is it the sidecar bar? So they had this lychee martini, which is great, right? You know, but there's that flavor and that smell, you know, so, but I don't know lychee. I've never had it by itself, but I feel like it smells like lychee.
No, and actually I'm so glad you said that. It's in my notes and then I get rolling along and like the one word lychee, like it's left off. Totally lychee. Totally. Remember the lychee nuts we got from Miami?
No.
Yeah, well, it was only the 1990s. I don't know why you wouldn't remember that.
Sorry.
But I don't know why I remember them, but I just do. All right.
I don't remember lychee nuts. I mean, you're not talking about Spanish limes, right?
The lychee nuts that your dad brought up from Miami.
Is that the same thing as Spanish limes?
I don't know.
Okay. It's
They're-
not.
you peel it. It's like
Spiky.
you peel it and they're about this big.
Yes.
And they have the big nut, like a nut inside that you have to eat around. But it's not
It's the
sweet at
one-
all. It's tart. It's
It's the-
tiny. And you peel it.
Yeah, it's a Spanish lime.
Yeah, it's pearlescence.
Okay, that's
Yes.
the same thing that
Yes,
I'm talking about.
exactly.
Okay, it's a Spanish lime. It's got, so it's about this big.
Mm-hmm.
Peel it, but there's not a lot of flesh around it. It's got like a big, it's not a pit in the middle, but like a nut. Yeah. And so you have to kind of chew on it to
Yep.
get, okay, so it's a Spanish lime. So I do.
And I've actually had a martini with the lychees. So I totally exactly, like I went back to it and I was like, aha, that's
so I
true.
do know what a lychee is.
No, yeah, and lychee is totally important to this taste. Actually, I would have been remiss in not mentioning it. Linda saved my butt. So anyway,
Yeah, I can, that's a really good, because I haven't had them since, I mean, we used to have them in Key West all the time, but.
right. No, lychee is a really great quality in this.
Oh, and the Tuckers agree. With the
Right.
lychee, yep. Mhm.
Yeah, right. Yeah, lychee is, and it's a super fun flavor. It
Mhm.
really is, because it's that coalescence. It's like, why am I not getting this? Because it's like it's not quite green apple. It's not, and you're getting
And
a
it's
little
got
bit
that
of
melony
right.
kind
And
of,
melony
yeah.
is like it's
Mhm.
lychee is what
Yeah.
it is. Yeah. I actually have the ability to lychee liqueur at the store. It's
Oh.
quite delicious.
Sounds good.
Yeah, we'll get on that. Anyway,
Okay,
so
so that's the
good
first time
call.
I've been in
Thank you
trouble,
so much,
but
Linda.
I actually Googled it and I don't think they're the same thing.
Really?
Yeah. So lychee is a red,
Yeah.
but then I also Googled Spanish lime.
There's lime. So are Kiwi and I talking about different things?
Yeah,
than
they're
everybody
green
else?
and orange. And
Yeah,
then-
they're green with orange in them.
yeah, the lychees are red.
Yeah,
Right,
and
then I
their
have not
skin
had
is
lychee.
and their skin is spiky. It's not smooth.
Spiky and crispy. You have to take it
Yeah,
off.
Yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't remember that at all.
Right.
Yeah, no, they're totally different.
Yeah, like
I
in
was
the
like,
spicy
ooh, I need to
spice.
find this. And I'm getting like 2 different results. I'm like, I'm gonna be the girl who calls it out.
Elizabeth, you would remember eating lychee because they're like slimy eyeballs.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Okay.
know what? That's a good description, Harriet. It really is. But they were delicious.
Okay.
And the texture is great once it's in your mouth. But anyway. All right, so
Slimy eyeballs.
they look like it, but they don't taste like
Does
it.
your wine
They're
taste
not
like
as slimy.
eyeballs?
All right, so
Share.
jumping over, yes, share. Let's talk about ratings. All right, so here we have roughly on both of them pushing right around a 90. Like say there was the kind of an outlier of a 93, but most of them are 90, 91, 90, and then on the other guy 89, 90, 89, 90. It bounces back and forth the whole way. So let's say between the two, we're really talking about a 90. An outstanding wine, superior character and style, versus in the 80s, very good wine with special qualities. Nothing wrong with that. Like I say, every single week. I'm going. Let's see what you guys are thinking on.
Okay,
this
so you
now.
want me to?
Right. So, like I say, 80 to 84, a good, solid, well-made wine. 95, a classic, a great wine. I think it's always fun to look at these and just kind of think about it, a little loosely, because there's all kinds of flavors.
So if you want to stick in the chat box what you think your rating is. So we've got 2 90s right now.
It's
Let's
like
say Bubble said a 91.
nice.
99. I think that's Brian. Whenever he likes something, it's a 99.
So Brian's got a love
88.
balloon. All right.
Linda and Paul.
Cool. And we do have one outlier, but other than that, it's a good tight
Yeah,
cluster.
80. Okay, so and I would have gone with the Hogsets 89 to 90. Caroline really likes it. 93.
Nice. Huh?
Oh, David would not revisit. Okay,
All right.
there
All
you
right.
go. Okay, so we
All right.
went from 80 to 88. That's a big
All right.
difference. So I think if we averaged all of this, it would probably be an 89, 90.
I don't know if you saw my face when I did the first sip and I went, so come a long way.
Yeah.
That's for sure. That's a big change.
See, and I would do the 89, 90, like the Hogsets. And what would you do?
All day long, 89, 90.
Mhm.
Yeah, all day long.
Yeah.
I think it's to me, it's got character. It's delicious. It's well made. It's got some intrigue to it to keep my interest. It's it's not just I would say this. There were some Pinot Grigios. There are some delightful Pinot Grigios out there. We should probably drink one.
Pinot Grigio.
But there are some that are just, I would give them a 75. They're just mediocre. It tastes like a lemon spritz in alcohol water. It's not interesting.
Sure.
But this guy has a lot more going on.
We're not talking about Villa Loren, are we?
Nope.
Oh.
Is that the one he drinks a bottle a day by himself?
No, I would not have it in my store if I thought it deserved that.
So
that is an overachieving everyday drinker.
And I think for this, I could see especially this time of year, sitting out on the back porch,
Right.
drinking this wine. It's not gonna heat you up and make you start sweating. It's gonna, cool you down with it. Yeah. So Yeah, I mean, I'm with Julie. Reds are my favorite always, but yeah.
Yeah,
Good day party wine. I
That's right.
agree, Julie. Yeah, absolutely.
Like if you were having like midday, like a luncheon, or like, and you want to serve wine, like 1000%, I would serve it.
Well, and what I like about it really is that, yes, it's fresh
Yeah.
and easy. You know, it's just, it's very pleasing wine, but it does have interest to it.
Sure.
You
Yeah.
know, it's well made and it's tasty and it's got character. And
That's the one the ideal food pairing would be with it.
With this?
The ideal food pairing.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was on mute. John wanted to know what the ideal food pairing would have been with this, but I missed that earlier because I was a little bit.
So we can go back over that if you want.
Yeah.
So it's basically fish and tofu, coconut curry.
I saw like the pad thai. Something like
Right.
that. Okay, sorry, I'll be back on mute.
Sushi type stuff.
Let's throw out something really exotic. Abalone.
Yeah.
Abalone is perfect.
Sure.
Why not?
And Kiwi's cursing you right now,
That's right.
but she's on mute, so
That's
she's
right.
not.
By the way, hey, everybody who's raise a hand who's eaten abalone.
Okay, so
Yeah.
just a few.
There we go. Oh, abalone.
What is it?
What is it?
Yeah. We don't
Abalone.
know. What is it?
It's a mollusk that's off of California for Americans. I think abalone's in Australia too.
I think so.
Yeah,
It's
they're more
very,
in
very
Australia.
dangerous to harvest it.
But
like,
yeah, well,
people die.
You basically
harvesting it.
swim into great
Shark
white
infested
infested
waters.
waters and harvest
Yeah.
abalone, but it's amazing. But it's a mollusk.
Mhm.
It's not worth it.
It is worth it. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
We got it in
I had
Australia.
in Australia,
It's not
Chile,
worth it,
and
yeah.
Japan.
Yeah, it's what is it? It's about $50 a pound. It's super expensive.
Yeah.
They're about huge.
Yeah.
But amazing stuff.
So any last comments about the wine before we?
Yeah, we'll move on
Right?
to the next week's wine.
Yeah.
Yep. Any last thoughts, comments?
Bubbles for next week?
I don't know. I haven't
Coming
seen
soon.
it yet, but Jeff says they're coming soon. So,
All right. On
Next.
to yep.
okay.
All right, here we are next week. So you guys that have been with us week to week, you know that one of my favorite styles is Amarone. Amarone is our grapes that have been dried before being pressed to give them extra intensity, a little raisination, the appassimento method, which we'll discuss next week, but that's what that means. So this is a South American appassimento red blend called Milamore.
Okay, wait. So did you mess up on that slide?
Yep,
Okay. Pay no attention to the words
that's right.
that are at the top of the slide.
That's right.
Just pay attention to the bottle.
The
that is
bottle
on-
and the points are correct. The points are correct. So, and the food pairings are correct. So this is an Argentinian red blend where they actually dried out the grapes a little bit to raisinate them and intensify the richness of them. 92 points, 90 points, braised beef, pot roast, frogois, grilled portobello, marinated in balsamic, and chocolat with walnuts.
Ooh,
Any of
That
these
sounds good.
pairings will work beautifully. It's a great wine. It's a whole lot of fun. So that is what we will enjoy together next week. I have 36 bottles on the way. There will be no shortage of wine. We can all buy multiple and enjoy.
there you go.
So compare it to something, Jeff, that we've had before. Like, what are we getting into? Because it sounds amazing. but
Oh,
then-
it's going to be a little different from anything we've had before, which is part of my fun because, you know, I try to keep it around $25 to $35 as a top point for our wines of the week to keep things pretty casual. And Amarone starts around 55, 60. So this guy is going to be spicy and rich, but with a nice grip. So in the end, it's going to be kind of a really unique experience, but one that, you know, red wine lovers are going to easily enjoy. So,
But
I
it's,
hope
but
that
it's
answers some.
unique. It's undescribable,
It's-
evidently. We
Hey,
cannot compare it to anything.
I gave it descriptions. Spicy,
You, okay, you
rich.
did describe
know,
it. Just there's not a
no,
comparable.
there's not
There's not a comparable.
There's not.
Was it like that, what was it? Was it South African? Like that spicy red that one time? That's like, you could not have described that ahead of time.
Right. Yeah. It's going to be kind of like that, where it's going to be the rich version of where that was like that one was this really cool, spicy Pinot Noir experience, even though it didn't taste like Pinot, it's just that lighter body. This is going to be a heavier body, but with some nice tannin, not incredibly grippy. It's not going to be like the Obsidian Ridge that we drank a week ago, because that guy was a muscular beast. This guy's more velvet with,
Okay.
anyway, yeah.
That should be interesting.
It's the red velvet cake of red wine. All right, how about that?
Exciting.
That's right. All right.
Any last comments before we?
About this, we can always, we'll toast and stop recording, and then of course you can tell me what you really think about what I said. But
Okay.
all right.
All right.
Let's toast.
Cheers, everyone.
Thank you all for
Thank you
coming. We'll see you next week.